Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the Schrader Lakes area in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in northern Alaska. ANWAR spreads for 19 million acres of the most diverse habitat in the Arctic region. The Brooks Range is an expansive chain of mountains that covers the Arctic areas of Alaska. Some peaks in the Brooks Range reach over 9,000 feet in elevation and are capped with ice and snow year-round. Dall sheep dance along the slippery icy slopes, and moose meander the muskeg in meadows. On the north slope, floods of melting snow carve deep valleys packed with poplar and spruce trees. This rush of clean, cold water allows seasonal salmon migrations, which bring nutrients to the ecosystem after their death. Most of the plant life here consists of low-growing bushes and willows, but a few tree species are hardy enough to hang on. Just north of Schrader Lakes, mountains give way to tundra with vast herds of caribou and bands of musk oxen. The predators in the Brooks Range include Arctic fox and red fox, coyotes, wolverines, and gray wolves, as well as all three species of bears in North America. Black bears, brown bears, and polar bears somehow eke out a living in this cold and seemingly inhospitable place. On August 4th, 1979, a trio of hikers was getting ready to break camp. Chad Hansen was a professor of Chinese philosophy from Vermont. Quinn and Patricia Whiting O'Keefe were his companions. Quinn was a medical doctor at the University of San Francisco, and Patricia was his devoted and doting wife and partner. In the previous days of their expedition, they had seen a lot of wildlife and unforgettable views. The valleys and slopes had offered their camera pictures that would be remembered for years to come. Herds of caribou thundered across the tundra, and moose peeked from behind small trees and bushes, making the hikers' experience inspiring and peaceful. One notable animal that they hadn't seen was suspiciously missing from their immersive experience in the backcountry. They knew that brown bears were commonplace in this environment, but somehow they had avoided seeing one so far. The hikers were not packing bear spray, given it was not invented yet, and had decided not to take any firearms along on their adventure. Patricia did have the forethought to adorn her backpack with bear bells, though, so the possibility of running into a bear had crossed their collective minds. As the trio hiked the rolling foothills, Patricia pulled ahead of the men by around 50 yards. She did not expect to run into bears, given they hadn't seen any to this point. As she topped a small rise and disappeared on the far side, the men climbed toward her location. Patricia crested the rise and walked down the slope several yards. Suddenly she heard a rustle in the brush nearby and glanced to see what the source of the sound could be. She was filled with terror as she saw a huge brown bear with her 3 cubs steaming toward her from only a few yards away. She could only scream before the sow closed in on her and had no time to do anything else before the bear dropped her with a single swat from her massive paw. With Patricia now out of sight, the men heard her scream in terror but couldn't see anything occurring. Quinn and Chad scrambled up the rise to find the sow and her 3 cubs disappearing as they ran away. A sudden rustle in the bushes to their right revealed another sow brown bear, with her 2 little cubs charging toward them in a bluff charge. The men backed down and allowed the sow space. She turned her cubs around and fled as quickly as the other bears had done. After avoiding the second sow's charge, Chad and Quinn searched for Patricia. They followed her moans to a spot just off the side of the trail. To this point, their attention was diverted by running into 7 brown bears within just a few seconds of each other, but now it was all directed to Patricia. Quinn bent down over his wife and was horrified to see how much damage the single swipe from the sow's claws had done to her beautiful face. He could tell by the damage done that the bear's paw had likely struck Patricia on her right temple area. The gashes across her face told the tale of the attack. Her nose was severed and dangled by a small piece of skin. Her scalp on the right side of her head had been sliced and hung attached to her only at the top. Furthermore, her right eye, the tissues, and the bones surrounding it were destroyed and misplaced. Patricia was conscious, though, but bleeding profusely. Quinn tried to put the severed portions of his wife's face back in place and applied pressure to her wounds to slow the bleeding. He and Chad briefly discussed how to get her help and agreed that the best strategy was for Chad to go. Quinn stayed behind, surrounded by 7 brown bears, with his bleeding and injured wife, while Chad ran toward the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service office at Peters Lake. Chad made the 18-mile route in only 5 hours, across rolling tundra and through boggy muskeg. Upon his arrival, officers there tried to reach out to request a medical helicopter to Patricia's location. Severe weather had rolled in and prevented radio contact. Dr. Paul Fisher decided the best way to establish contact with the Prudhoe Bay-based medical service was to hop in the small airplane at the office and fly above the storm. He braved the dangerous weather and managed to establish contact to successfully order the medical helicopter's assistance. The helicopter was dispatched to rescue Patricia, but after flying over the area, couldn't locate her. They landed at the office and picked up Chad to have him show them where Patricia and Quinn were waiting. During the 7 hours following Patricia's attack, fog had settled in and closed visibility to under 25 feet. Quinn anticipated that the low visibility would prevent Patricia's rescue, so he quickly gathered wood to build a large fire. As Chad guided the helicopter crew to O'Keefe's location, the pilot spotted the signal fire glimmering through the fog. The helicopter pilot managed to land safely near the O'Keefes, and Patricia was loaded aboard. She was flown to a hospital in Fairbanks, where a trauma team awaited her arrival. They rushed her into surgery, and she endured 10 hours of emergency operations. Her wounds were cleaned and closed using sutures, and the rest of her body was examined for additional damage or wounds. The medical team discovered that her left eye had also been damaged by the bear's swat. Patricia's face was severely disfigured during the attack, but she was in stable condition. She had survived due to everyone involved executing a series of actions that ensured it. From Quinn's rendering of first aid to Chad's long run to the Fish and Wildlife Office, from Dr. Fisher's risky airplane flight to the helicopter pilot seeing Chad's rescue fire through the fog, each member of her rescue team executed their role flawlessly to save her life. Following Patricia being stabilized in Fairbanks, she was flown back to San Francisco for extended hospitalization there. She endured several surgical procedures to reconstruct her face, but refused to allow her experiences to keep her from enjoying the backcountry. Quinn and Patricia continued to hike and camp in the backcountry after she had recovered. Regarding what actions the government officials took toward the sow and her cubs, I could find no source indicating that anything was done to them at all. As far as I found, no action was taken against the bears. The sow's attack was deemed a defensive attack and within the expected behavior of a bear defending her cubs. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I have a few questions for you. Do you think if Patricia had been carrying a firearm, this attack may have been prevented? Why do you think the bear didn't hear Patricia's bear bells and flee? Would you expect a single swat from a brown bear to do so much damage to a human face? What would you feel if you were left with an injured spouse among 7 brown bears until help arrived? I will enjoy reading and replying to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Special thanks to Shelby Rice 1014 for suggesting that I create this episode. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.